Thanks so much for joining us. Maloko, have you been able to get to the core of what the ANC is saying about these latest claims by the EFF leader?
Well, absolutely, Marcel. As you correctly said, we have managed to speak to the ANC national spokesperson, Pule Mabe, and he emphasized that the fact that the leaders who were elected during the Nasrec conference, and of course those who were elected in Mangaung and Polokwane and all their congresses, form part of the conference resolutions, meaning that no person in their individual capacity have the authority to remove them from their positions. And he emphasized that Jacob Zuma, at the time when he was president of the country, he was the only person in the ANC who had been guaranteed a job as the president of the republic. And as a result, it was not up to an individual to make sure that they remove that person. In other words, he even referred to a provision in the constitution of the party which says that people who contravene resolutions of their Congress will be subject to a disciplinary process. Now, here you have Derek Hanekom, at least in the version of Julius Malema, having connived with the EFF leadership, plotting to remove former President Jacob Zuma during the processes that were underway in Parliament to vote him out as President of the Republic. And if indeed it is true that Derek Hanekom, together with the Deputy General Secretary of the SACP, Solima Paila, who is also a member of the ANC, if indeed they were plotting with the EFF, definitely they will be subject to that disciplinary process. Now, it also goes on to say that people who are members of the ANC cannot belong to other political parties. And you remember that Malema said that Hanekom told them as the EFF that if had Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma won that Nasrec conference, they were prepared to form their own political party.
I suppose for many, the name of Derek Hanekom being mentioned came as a bit of a surprise, because if you go by the interactions between Derek Hanekom and some of the leaders of the EFF on Twitter, per se, you know that there's no love lost there.
Well, Marcel, a lot of South Africans will actually remember that in many instances, Julius Malema had actually made public some of the very interesting revelations. When President Cyril Ramaphosa first became president after that unceremonious resignation of Jacob Zuma, Malema took to social media expressing or announcing some of the people that he believed were going to make it into cabinet, and his predictions were mainly correct. So there has always been a suspicion that Malema is in contact with some of the people who are in the African National Congress, feeding him information. Of course, out in the public, as we saw in many instances, Malema and other members of the ANC would get into an altercation. But if Malema's version is to be believed, clearly Derek Hanekom was talking with the EFF about sensitive issues. Now, that on its own says that perhaps if Malema is correct to say that he's got evidence of those particular interactions, it would be interesting whether the ANC would be calling on him to say, give us evidence, Malema, or they would rather rely entirely on the version of these two members of the ANC, Mapaila and Hanekom. But this particular matter certainly is going to heighten the factions in the ANC, where some of the people still believe that he must be taken through a disciplinary hearing. This is Hanekom, because you would remember that some people are still angry at the fact that Derek Hanekom was chairperson of the ANC disciplinary committee that fired Julius Malema several years ago. So ironically today here we're having Julius Malema, who apparently is holding the future of Derek Hanekom in his own hands.
Have we had any comment from the former cabinet minister on this?
Well, I tried, Marcel, on several occasions to reach out to Derek Anekom. His phone is not responded to. The same with Solima Paila and also with the spokesperson of the South African Communist Party, because obviously Solima Paila, in his position as the Deputy Secretary General, is an office bearer. None of those three people could be reached for comment. But of course, we will not tire. We will pursue them. I'm also hoping that maybe Godrich Gadi, the Secretary General of the EFF, who Malema said had a conversation, with Derek Hanekom, hopefully he will share that information with us.
Indeed, ENCA's Moloko Moloto coming to us live there from outside Luthuli House here in Johannesburg. He'll continue to track that story for us.